So this evening's class is going to start seated on the block, and it won't be traveling very far away. So I cross the heels in, let myself sit up, bring forearms together in front of the body, interlace the fingers, and then start to get a little bit of wrist rolling going in. Going to try and settle the breath a little bit, so breathing in and out through the nose and mouth. And then we'll take some side bends. So we'll just walk the fingers out to the left, plant the palm down, take the right hand up, lay it out to follow the line of your body. Try and keep the head in line as well. And as you exhale, just bend in gently to that bottom elbow and see if you can keep both sitting bones on the ground. So you have to make a little bit of effort to press the right knee, so the opposite way to bending, down onto the floor a little bit. And try and try and open the chest. Speaking shorthand. Press into the floor. Lift ourselves back up. Itsy spider the finger out to the other side. Take the hand up and lengthen. Stretch out. You notice there's quite a straight arm, so the fingers are lengthening out and spread a little bit. Tiny little bend. Might not get so deep on both sides. Remember to breathe. And then we'll let ourselves press out of that as well. Take a little breath from here. We're going to bring the fingers in front and fold over. I'm just going to walk the hands out as far as I can. So I've done a couple of classes today and my back is relatively warmed up. So you might get as low, you might be higher, you might be lower. And try and stay on the fingertips so the elbows are away from the floor if you have got down low. And draw the belly in a little bit. Imagine a sensation of pressing the tailbone back. You feel the muscles engage in the legs a little bit as you do so. And then we'll walk the fingers back in, draw the body back up. Now we're going to come onto all fours for cat-cow. I'm just going to move that block out to the side front end of the mat. And then a little chance to spread the fingers out, roll the shoulders back, tailbone up to the sky. Tuck said tailbone down, spine round, press into the floor, hands and shins. Inhale forwards. Exhale it out. Try and keep as much space between the ears and shoulders. We'll come into a neutral spine. We'll take our first down dog. Tuck the toes underneath. Let the hips move towards the back and up at the same time. Step out the down dog if you need to. And then you can pedal or stay static. Or if you wanted to take a three-legged dog, you could do. And come into a steady position. Let the hands walk back. towards the toes. We'll spend a moment here, just letting the hips lift up, pressing the feet down to open out the back to the legs a little bit. Letting the belly draw in, so ribs and thighs get a little closer. Soften the knees a fraction, bring the hands under the hips, elbows high, and lengthen the chest forwards to lift up. As we come up, we'll take the feet out as wide as the mat. Take the hands out to the side and up to the sky on the breath in. Bring the hands in towards the heart. I'm going to squat down, keeping the spine long and flat. Going to bring the hands to the floor. Then let the body fall forwards, round spine and gorilla roll back out. So lifting up, hands into the heart. Soften the knees, squat down gently. Hands to the floor. Fold it forwards as you exhale. Let yourself roll back up as you inhale. One more time. Hands into the heart. Squatting down. Fold round and down and lift. And just shake it all out as you come back up. Now we'll come up to the front of the mat. Take a little breath, take the hands up to the sky. Hands into the heart, exhale over the thighs and down to the floor. We step back through down dog. Knees to the floor, directly underneath. We'll take a little breath here. Allow the right hand to lift up. Going to thread this under, down to the floor. Rotate the chest up towards the sky. Draw that left shoulder back a little bit towards the spine. Press into the shins just a fraction. 2 more breaths. Last one. We'll press into the floor to lift back up. Take out the left hand. Thread that underneath. Again, try and draw that right shoulder towards the spine a little bit. Open the chest to the side. And we'll press into the hands and lift back up. Take the hands forwards, keeping the hips over the knees into melting heart. So it's a straight line between the hands, the shoulders and the hips. You draw the belly in, you lengthen the spine back, press the shins into the floor. Nice right angle between knees and thighs and calves. Press into the hands a little bit so you energize the muscles in the arms and sit less into the joints. And then just walking the fingers back so you push yourself back a little bit. So there's a transfer of weight to bring the hands back underneath. Take the knees wide, sit all the way down onto the heels this time. Float down through the side of the body towards the floor. And take a further lift here. And then take the left hand over to the right side underneath and thread that through. So it's very similar to the twist we had before. We're just doing this in the child's position. And up onto the fingertips of the extended hand out to the front of the mat. A little lift as you exhale. Both hands out in front, and we'll take it over to side B. One more breath. And then lift. Bring your hands out in front again. We'll come back up onto all fours, up onto the knees. Bring them back underneath. We'll take a little breath here and into our down dog number 2. Now you can choose to pedal the legs if you still need to, or you can be nice and still. Start to check out the hands a little bit. Spread out those fingers. Move your t-shirt out of the way as you start to drown in cloth. Hit the lips up. Hit the lips. Lift the hips. It's not going to be a good day when I can't get the words out in the right order, is it? One more breath here. And then this time I'm going to walk the toes to the front of the mat. So I'm going to come up onto the tippy toes. Take tiny little steps, keeping the feet the same distance, hip distance that they were at the back. As they travel down tram lines, okay, they're imaginary ones, down to the front of the mat, tiny little steps. We'll get to a point where either balance or length of arms and legs will run out. And then I have to bring the feet flat to the floor. Just let myself waddle in to the front of the mat. Bring the hands onto the hips again. Allow ourselves to lengthen up. Now, as you do, we'll take the hands high. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Soften the knees or sitting back into chair pose. Keep the spine long. Inhale the hands out to the front of the mat. Try and lengthen forwards. Bump into the wall again like I did earlier in the week. I should have learned my lesson, but obviously didn't. Bring the hands into the floor and then onto the hips. Soften the knees a little bit to lift up with a flat back. So inhale high. Hands into the heart. The knees soften, they track the feet. So make sure your feet are pointing forwards like you were skiing down a mountain. I've never been skiing in my life, so I'm just imagining that's what you do. Allow yourself to lengthen forwards and down. And then we'll sit back again one more time. Let ourselves lift out of the chair this time. Hands into the heart. Soften the knees. Sit back. Extend out the arms. Forwards, dive down to the floor. And again, we just soften the knees gently. Sitting back into chair. A little deeper perhaps, and then the arms lift to the sky and out to the side. Now we're going to just shake out the arms and legs a bit. I'm going to stand a bit further away from the front of the mat. Shake your feet are parallel. Bring the hands in towards your heart. I'm going to take the right foot, slide it back. Imagine those tram lines are still on the mat. So both feet are pointing forwards, and I want to make sure my hips haven't turned out to the side in the process of moving back. So hips point forwards. Both legs straighten out, nice and strong. Bring the hands onto the hips. And lengthen out slowly. Now I'm going to try and bring the fingers onto the shins and lengthen the body forwards. So the legs are working pretty hard. You want to be careful you don't press into the back of the front leg. Push the foot down to the floor. So it starts to work on the hip stabilizers as well as the core muscles in the spine and abdominals. Now let's soften the front knee. Let ourselves lift up. Taking the feet back to that starting position. Hands into the heart. Just lean a little into the right foot. Slide the left foot back. So it doesn't have to be the biggest step, just as long as the legs are apart. Square the hips, fingers onto the hips and the elbows back a little bit. When you're ready, we extend out. And bring the hands onto the shins. So we're just looking to sort of be about halfway. It's really strong on that leg. It will want to sort of ping out from underneath you. So you have to focus on trying to keep the thigh muscles lifted and the back foot engaged in the idea of pressing down. And then we'll soften the front knee to lift ourselves back up. Step back into the middle again. Shake out the legs. Bring them back into the same position. Take a little breath. We'll step the right foot back. Oops. That isn't even the tricky bit. Square the hips up. Now this time we're going to take the hands out wide and then up towards the sky. We try and keep the hips pointing forwards and the legs straight. Let the right hand come forwards, the left hand back, and turn the torso towards the left side. Now you can take the eyes with you, or you can keep looking to the front. Your choice. So we're going to bring the hands back up. Turn the chest towards the front. Then we take the left hand forward, right hand back. Try and keep the hips pointing forwards and the chest turns out. That's a little bit more tricky for balance. It will feel a bit more natural when you come to that first side again. Keep the legs working. Inhale high. And we'll take that one more time to each side. Does demand a bit of concentration and working smoothly with the breath to aid balance. You almost have to turn the hip forwards a little bit on this second side as you rotate the chest, just to compensate. Let the hands come down. Step into the middle of the mat again. Take the last side so that left foot goes back. Should I manage it a little bit easier this time? Engage both legs so they're straight, pressing down, the thighs are lifting. Take the hands out to the side, then to the sky. Remember this time it's left hand forwards, we turn to the right. Inhale up. And exhale down. Inhale high. So it's 2 more times to each side. So last round. Final side. Hands above the head as we center. Dropping the hands down, we step forwards and shake it all out. I'm going to take a little breath from the front of the mat. Take the hands high into the heart, a forward fold. And we'll take the right foot to the back of the mat. In the lunge, drop the right hand to the floor. Take the left hand forwards and lift up into a twist. Squeeze the knee in towards the center line a little bit. Keep the back heel pointing towards the sky. Lengthen out through the fingertips. press as strong as you can into that front hand on the floor. One more breath. Ease the hands down to the ground. We'll take it to the second side. We'll step to the front of the mat into a forward fold. Then bring the hands under the hips, soften the knees and flatten the back to lift. We'll come high. And then, unsurprisingly, we'll go low. Drawing the belly in, taking the weight into the toes. Left foot back this time. Plant the left hand. Right hand comes forwards and up. We twist. Bring hand to the floor. Take a little breath. We'll step into the front of the mat. Fold down. Bring the hands onto the hips. Soften the knees to lift up. Now inhale, hands high. Into the heart, taking a step out to the right and take wide legs. Nice big step. Going to adjust a little bit. That's fine. Take the hands out into a star position. We're going to move into warrior two to the front of the mat. So both feet turn. You can sink over the front knee. Take a breath here, straighten the front leg. Turn the toes to the long side of the mat, then to the rear. Sink into that warrior two, second side. Now ideally you would turn your head and look through the finger of the forward hand. First round, just wanted to make sure everyone was staying with me. Comes through. Can keep the hands out. Just turning gently. Considering the pelvis, keeping these bones the same distance from the floor as we come into that bendy front leg, so we're not leaning into it and tilting the pelvis. So we're just working on that. It's very much a feeling sensation, not just the mirror effort of bending the knee and coming into warrior two. Out of the periphery of your vision, you can see the bottom knee bending. And try and get that to track same direction as the front foot, which hopefully will be pretty similar to the center line of the mat. Now we'll come back to the front of the mat. Sink into warrior two. You're going to turn the palm of the front hand and take a reverse warrior. I'm going to take the hand behind a little bit just to take myself a little deeper into the pose, but hand on thigh would be fine. I'm going to bring the hands in towards the heart, straightening the front leg, turning the toes to the back of the mat, and doing the same, just mirroring what we did before. Palm turns up. Hands to the heart, so a little easier on the shoulders. Last round. bring the hands into the heart. Turn the toes towards the front edge, long side. Hinge over the hips as we bring the hands onto the hips and the spine out. We're just going to look for a long flat back. So we're beyond fingertips deliberately, not coming any lower. Just lengthening out the chest a little. So not too much weight in the fingertips. Legs and body are doing the lifting. Now I'm going to soften the knees, bring the hands onto the hips and lift up. I'll take my star position again and turn the toes to the front of the mat. Come into my warrior two. So I'm going to lengthen forwards and follow the line of the back leg. Then I'm going to straighten the front leg. Just bring my hand onto my shin, wrap the rear hand around, and see if I can find the top of that thigh. So come into Trikonasana, triangle pose. We'll soften the front knee. Now ourselves back into warrior two, where we straighten the front leg, which is getting a little tired. And turn towards the back. Come into our warrior two. Extend forwards over that front thigh. Allow yourself to slowly move into that triangle pose. Just straighten the front leg. Wrapping the top arm around. Now the body is quite high. I could go lower. My hand is about halfway up my shin, but I want it to be a high lift. Just want the legs to work, the body to understand balance. Looking gently towards the ceiling. Keeping the breath soft and active. Soften the front knee. Come back into warrior two. Straighten the legs. Zigzag the feet back in. Oh, it feels much more natural. You can see why we don't spend a lot of time walking around with the legs out wide like that. And shake the legs out a little bit and come up to the front of the mat. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Going to take a little breath and hinge over the thighs and down to the floor. And take a little breath from here. Take the right foot towards the back of the mat. The glasses back on. Now, I'm going to drop the back heel onto the floor and come up to warrior two. So I'm going to sweep the arms alongside the body as I lift a little bit. Allow myself to take that right hand forwards and cartwheel up. From here, I take the hands towards the sky, lengthen up through straighten arms. Going to turn the body gently towards the front of the mat and spin the heel towards the sky to high crescent. Hands come out wide, so they're just in line with the shoulders. Now I'm going to lean forwards and twist so that the right hand comes down to the floor as I exhale. So I'm coming into the twisted lunge that we know. I'm just allowing myself to revolve around. I'm going to bring both hands to the floor. Drop the back heel back in. Bring the hands alongside the body to lift up. Bring myself into warrior two. Take the hands high. Spin again towards the front of the mat, lifting the back heel. But this time I'm going to drop the hands down by the side of the body, lean forwards a little bit. And then as the arms come back through, hopefully a sensible step towards the front of the mat. We'll take the hands high again. into the heart. Exhale down. Left foot back this time, dropping the heel in. Ready for that warrior two lift. Hands come alongside. Open up and cartwheel. Take the hands high, lengthen through the sides of the body, palms face in. Turn gently towards the front of the mat, spinning on the back foot. There's a little pause to catch your balance. Let the hands come out wide. Take a breath. Lean forwards and a twist, all in one. Gently coming down to the floor. Takes quite a bit of balance through that front leg as you come in. Now bring the hand down to the ground, framing the foot. Drop the heel in again. Hands alongside the body. We lift up into our warrior two. Take the hands high. Rotate towards the front of the mat. Find steadiness. Hands down by the side of the body. Lean forwards. Use momentum to lift into the front of the mat and shake it all out. So the good news is, I've just looked at the video, I've still got two people standing on the end of the mat in one piece. So far, so good. So from the front of the mat, I'm going to start to bring that block and just bring it sort of on the side edge towards the front of the mat. We'll move it around as we get to use it. Take the hands high as we breathe in towards the heart. Exhale over and down. We'll take a little breath here. Right foot to the back of the mat. Allow ourselves to drop the heel in. Now we're going to take the right hand towards the hip and then up towards the sky. Slowly straighten through the front leg. Let ourselves lift gently off of the ground, but as low as we can, if that makes any sense at all. Now I'm going to take the top hand towards my hip. I'm going to slowly turn my chest in a second down towards the floor. I'm going to see if I can allow the hand that is on my ankle to lift up towards the sky. And my right hand, which is on my hip at the moment, comes down to the ground. So as I rotate through, I'll take a little breath, swap the hands over. Now, if that doesn't feel comfortable, you just draw that block back on the inside of your foot and you press your right hand down. Now, it won't be terribly stable, but it will give you a little bit of chance for some support. Now, providing you're able to start to rotate the chest around towards the left side, you can take the left hand up. Now, it's easier to take it out towards the hip and back up than the other way. Two straight legs, we lengthen out through the body. I'm going to stay here for a few breaths. And we'll soften the front knee, bring both hands down to the floor. Take a little breath and step it into that forward fold. We'll fold down as deep as we can, drawing the belly in, hips high. Bring the hands onto the hips, soften the knees, lengthen and lift ourselves up. Inhale, hands high again. So it's a revolved triangle that we're leading into. We'll come down to the floor. Stepping back, left foot. Ready for the warrior two. Take a little breath. Allow ourselves to open up. So we'll just lengthen forwards. Come into a triangle from a higher position. Take the hand down to the shin or the floor. Lift the top hand up. It's a different way of coming in. Okay, we've got a few breaths here, just finding our balance, making sure that that back foot feels like it's lined up in a way that's going to assist with the twist. If your heel has crossed over the line of your opposite heel, then when you come into the twist, you'll lose your balance. Your foot does need to be a little bit further out to the side. I'm going to slowly bring my left hand onto the hip. Start to rotate the chest down towards the floor. Swap over the hands. Remember the blocks there if you need it. Right hand comes towards the hip. Take a little breath. And then see if we can use the hand up towards the sky. And then bring the hand back towards the hip. Soften the front knee, we'll frame the foot. Take a little breath. And step it into the front of the mat. Again, we take that little fold for a while. Bring the hands onto the hips, soften the knees to flat back to lift up. Shake it all out. So that was revolved triangle. We're going to take it a step further, literally. We're going to come into a revolved half moon. Now, technically, it sounds like it's going to be more complicated than a half moon, but I find from a balance point of view, it's actually a little bit easier. So if you're not too sure what that looks like, just to show you where we're going to get to, I'm going to take a little breath. Take that leg off the ground. Now I'm going to turn the block flat to the floor this time to press my fingers down. Bring my hand onto the opposite hip and I turn in towards the twist rather than out. So I find that easier. That's where we're going to get to. We'll come from the front of the mat, taking the hands high, in towards the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Turn your block down, flat ways, just in front of you. Take a little breath. Now we'll step the right foot back. Then we'll step the left foot back into down dog. Just lift the hips. We'll take a little breath from here and take the right leg high into a scissor. Draw the knee gently in towards the chest and bring the foot through. You're going to take a little breath from here. Let the hands travel forwards as far as they can, keeping the knee over the ankle. You're going to press out of that foot to lift the back leg. Now just adjust the left hand onto the floor. So you want to think that when you're starting off, your hands are probably as wide apart as your shoulders. But as you rotate, your shoulder's going to start to come a little closer into the center line. So you want to make sure that the block is far enough over so you can adjust. Now the back foot that's lifted off the ground, the toes point down towards the floor and you press out through the heel, the foot is flexed. You bring your right hand gently onto your right hip, or the base of the spine, your choice. Start to turn the chest to the side. Now looking to the side actually is a little easier on the neck, and then we lift the hand towards the sky. Stay here for a few breaths. Try and lengthen the body out of the pelvis. And then we'll soften the front knee back into a lunge as we bring the hands down to the floor. Take a little breath. Step it forwards. Again, we'll just hold here and fold down. Bring the hands under the hips and lengthen. Soften the knees. We'll come up and then down to the other side. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. Exhale down. I'm going to step the left and the right leg back into my down dog. Take that lefty leg towards the sky. Hips are nice and square. Draw the knee in towards the chest. Bring the foot through, front of the mat. Allow yourself to just Move the block very gently, fraction over to the opposite side. Take the hands forwards, but keep the front knee over the ankle. As you press off the toe, you lean into the front leg to come up. Start to place the right hand onto the block. Think about your positioning. It's a little tighter to the center line. Keep the hips stable, so the back foot presses out, toes to the floor, lengthen the chest out a little bit. Left hand comes onto the hip, maybe onto the base of the spine. You slowly rotate the chest to the left side. Let the eyes follow and the head. And then if you feel safe, you take the hand away and towards the sky. Remember to breathe. You're almost squeezing the thighs together. I know the legs are not actually in line with each other to do that, but you will be squeezing into the center a little bit. One more breath here. Soften that front knee, come back into the lunge, hands to the floor. Take a final little step into the front of the mat. And again, we fold down. Bring hands onto the hips, lengthen the body to lift up. Hands into the heart. Going to take a step to the right. Take the legs out wide, hands onto the hips, toes in a little, heels out. Fold it over. Fingers on the floor. This time we're going to try and get a bit of length between those front hip bones and the thighs. So send the tailbone back, get some space, a long spine. And then when you're ready, you're going to exhale, fold the hip bones over the thighs, let the body follow. Head comes closer to the ground. Pressing into the feet, drawing the belly towards the sky to help with that pressing feeling. Legs are going to be trembling quite a lot by now. They've done a lot of work in some interesting sort of positions in terms of balance. So the nerves have had a little bit of a run for their money. That's why we get a bit more trembling. Not necessarily because they're tired, just they're a bit confused. And then we lift back up again. Take a little breath from there. Zigzag the toes gently back in. Bring the hands onto the hips. Soften the knees to lift up. We'll turn out to the front of the mat. Take a little breath. I'm going to bring the hands in towards my heart. I'm going to simply start to bend the knees as if I'm going to come into a chair. I'm going to take a little breath, lift the heels off the ground gently, so just onto tippy toes, and then slowly sit down onto the heels. I'm going to try and keep the knees pointing forwards, keep the spine upright and long as I can. When heels and buttocks meet, bring the hands down to the floor. Take your little block, take it to the back of the mat, walk the fingers out. Lengthen the legs out, sit up nice and tall. We'll take the hands behind, lift the chest towards the sky a little bit. So squeezing the shoulders together, belly drawn towards the spine, compress the sitting bones down to the floor a little bit. Get a nice long neck. And then we lift up and across the ankles over, roll onto the shins, hands to the floor. I'm going to step back into a plank, take a little breath, bend the elbows back and ease myself down to the floor, untucking the toes. I'm going to bring the hands forwards and into a little Sphinx pose. So just drawing the chest up, Rolling the shoulders back. Heels are out a little bit, toes are in. Belly's drawn to the spine. Try and relax the buttocks out a little bit. Now, I'm going to keep the elbows where they are, but I'll bring the palms of the hand together into prayer. Interlace the fingers and tuck the little finger underneath. Roll the shoulders back a little bit as I tuck the toes underneath. I'm going to draw the belly in, press out through the heels. I'll lift myself up into an elbow plank. Smiley faces. Remember to breathe. Keep the shoulders wide and away from the ears. Keep the head in line with the body. Press out through the heels. You might have to draw the feet around a little bit. Just 30 seconds left. Keep broadening out the shoulders. Last few seconds. Strong legs press out through those heels. And then let the knees come to the ground. And we're going to sit back into child's pose. I think we deserved it. So you can take the hands wherever it feels comfortable. Out in front, underneath the body, or towards the toes. Wherever feels good. You'll be here for about a minute. Knees are quite narrow, about hip distance apart. And just using the breath to softly massage the lower back muscles. Diaphragm, just stretching the spine out a little bit. Slowly walk the hands back to lift the body up. And take the arms out wide. The surface stretch. So it's going to bring my left arm across, lock the right arm underneath and draw the shoulder around a little bit. Release. Take the arms out across to the second side. and release. I'm going to come forward just enough so that I can bring the block underneath my body. So the legs out in front. I'll take a final little twist. So I'm going to take my left foot underneath and out towards that right hip. Square hips to the front. Left knee is on the floor. Right leg comes over and high by walking the foot in. And allow myself to draw left arm around that right knee and draw the knee in towards the chest. So a little bit of strength going through the arm to stretch out that IT band a little bit. And then just taking the hand behind the hip out to the side of it. And trying to lift the chest by moving the pelvis forwards just a little fraction. And we'll release from there. And from both legs out. Cross over to the second side. Wrap that right arm around. Left hand behind. Turn to the front again. I'm going to bring the heels in towards the body, just as we did at the very beginning of the class. Take the hands forwards, lift up, fold over. And then we'll gently lift back up. And we'll come into Shavasana. Untangling the legs. Just lifting off the block and taking that towards the back of the mat for the head. As usual, if the spine feels like it's done a lot of work, its muscles are a bit tender, you keep the knees high and the feet wide and let them TP into the center until your spine feels like it's rested enough. And then if you eventually get to the point where you want to lengthen your legs out to the corner edges of the mat, you can do, or you can just simply stay in this version. So in either direction or either style, we'll take the hands out to the side, palms up. And let the shoulders wriggle underneath. Try and lengthen the hips away. Lift the feet to the corner edges of the mat, just letting the legs roll out to the sides. And on the exhale, particularly, you can let the spine sink to the ground and the rest of the body follows. There's natural curves in the spine. Get a chance to lengthen out a little bit on those exhalations. So you might even get the odd creak and crack in the back just from breathing in and out. So you'll start to stretch the fingers and toes. Now the wrists and ankles to rotate around a little bit. Deepening the breath, we can use that energy to stretch out in any way that feels good. And then when you're ready, let the knees come back in all the way to the body for the gentlest of hugs. You can stir the hips or just roll on the spine a little bit. And then we'll finally roll onto our right side. Just stay there for a breath or two, just to let the heart fill. And then use the hands to press into the floor to lift up on that gentle exhale. Roll into your favorite sitting posture. Sitting tall. Bring the hands in towards your heart as you take a breath in. And as you close the eyes, let the chin drop. Let the body bow to the floor to seal your practice. Use the breath to come back in and lift up. And the head finally lifts and the eyes open. Namaste. Have a wonderful weekend and take care.